My first, last, and only sex ed class took place in my 8th grade biology teacher's living room. It's not as creepy as it sounds, but it is as scary. See, my high school didn't allow us to be taught sex ed on campus. So my 28 classmates and I got our permission slip signed, put on our coats, and walked a half-mile up the road to Dr. Ahmed's house, where we sat for an hour squeezed in couches, listening to a sex ed teacher roll condoms onto bruised bananas. One conversation, one form of contraception. 4 of my girlfriends from growing up never made it to college. They got pregnant before we graduated. I'm not trying to draw a direct causal link here, but I am trying to make a point. This is crazy. In the US, 51% of pregnancies every year are unplanned. That's half. By the age of 45, more than half of American women will have had an unplanned pregnancy. Half. So from you here on over today, congratulations, you're expecting. Now, you don't need to have a uterus to be a part of this conversation either. You could be friends with someone with a uterus, you could be related to someone with a uterus, or perhaps most importantly, you could be sleeping with someone with a uterus. And this conversation matters for you too. So what's happening here? Why is this happening? We're either not using contraceptives or we're not using them effectively. Let's take a hypothetical scenario. Let's say everyone in this room is sexually active. This is a hypothetical. Say your chosen form of contraception is the withdrawal method, also known as pull and pray. Over 1 year of typical use, 22% of us would become pregnant. Say instead your chosen form of contraception is a condom. Over 1 year of typical use, 18% of us would still get pregnant. Say instead you use a pill. A pill is great, everyone uses a pill. Over 1 year of typical use, 9% of us would still get pregnant. Say instead you use an IUD. An IUD is an intrauterine device. It's kind of long-acting, reversible contraceptive. Say instead your chosen form of contraception is an IUD. Over 1 year of typical use, 0.2 to 0.8% of us would get pregnant. If you get sterilized, the pregnancy rate is still 0.5%. What I think is most interesting about IUDs, and I think a lot of things are interesting about IUDs, is the difference in failure rates for different kinds of birth control under scenarios of perfect use, i.e. how doctors tell us we should use them, and scenarios of typical use, i.e. how we actually use them. What sets the IUD apart is what I like to call the set it and forget it approach. Once you have it inserted, you don't have to think about it again until you want it removed. Awesome. We must be using these, right? Wrong. In the US, less than 6% of women use an IUD as their personal form of contraception. That is the lowest rate of any developed country. What is that? Why in a country so used to being the best on so many dimensions, we're not using the best and most effective form of contraception? There are a few reasons for that, but the one I want to talk about today is the fact that we're not talking about it. We don't talk about sex and contraceptions and reproductive health in this country. Heck, we leave high school campuses just to say the words. That's led to an increase in misinformation and a decrease in awareness about what the most effective forms of contraception really are, namely IUDs. So what can we do about it? We can start the conversation. Today I'm going to answer 3 commonly held questions about IUDs so that together we can start the conversation about contraception. So first question, what are these? First, I want to be clear. These are not IEDs, the explosive devices. These are IUDs, intrauterine devices, like the one shown here. There are 3 main types in the US. Mirena and Skyla, which are plastic, like the one shown here, and Paragard, like this one, which has copper wire wrapped around it. Mirena and Skyla work by releasing low-dose hormones in the body, the equivalent of less than 1 birth control pill a week. Paragard has copper wire wrapped around it and has no hormones. It lasts in the body for up to 10 to 12 years. Would you mind holding that? IUDs work by disrupting the flow of sperm mobility so that they're unable to fertilize an egg, among other mechanisms. They're easily inserted in the uterus in a 15-minute procedure, although some women say it can be painful or uncomfortable. Okay, next question. Aren't they dangerous? The first generation of IUD technology, the Dalcon Shield, came on the market in the 1970s and was responsible for a host of negative health outcomes. It was pulled from the market, but the stigma has persisted. This new generation of IUD technology is incredibly safe, although it is a medical device, so certain risks persist. Okay, fine, but what do they cost? IUDs cost anywhere from $300 to $700, although many insurance plans cover them in full, if not for a small copay. If we take worst case scenario, $700, and amortize that over the shortest time period, 5 years, that works out to less than $11 a month. That's literally less than the cost of lunch at Arbuckle, our dining hall. If you compare that to the cost of sending an unplanned child to college, I think that comparison's pretty clear. So they work, they're safe, and they're cost effective. Now, why aren't we using them? Now it's time for a medical disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, and this is not a substitute for a conversation with a medical professional. IUDs are a medical device, so carry with them certain risks. And some women are also uncomfortable with the thought of a foreign object in their body. Although this whole conversation is predicated on foreign objects in your body, so. IUDs are part of a choice, however. They're part of a choice that each female makes, and many couples make together, about their reproductive health. And if IUDs are missing from the conversation, then they're not a part of that choice at all. I want to ask you to do something. Think of the name of one person that you're going to have a conversation with about contraception in the next week. It can be your partner, a friend, a doctor, a spouse. On the screen is the name of a website you can go to for more information if you want help starting this conversation. IUDs are one of the most effective forms of contraception that exist, and we're not using them, but we are having sex. It's time to start the conversation about contraception together so that IUDs can become a part of that choice. Thank you.